Hello, everybody. I think we are live here, so it's pretty fun. Welcome. This is our first live cocktail video. The other one that we did was a pre-recorded one that was the whipped coffee cocktail, and it was fun. It was fun. It was a good one. I was kind of right during the start of this whole quarantine bit when whipped coffee became a big thing. So we made that into a cocktail. But today we're going to be doing two drinks today actually. They're a little bit different. One of them we're gonna do a like a pineapple iced tea, very simple, sippable, kind of infused iced tea type bit. Especially, which is awesome for this weather right now. It's getting pretty hot here. If you're in California, it's been the past couple of days has really jumped up in temperature. So it's really nice for this kind of weather. Um, it's really sippable, really nice in hot weather. And we're gonna start with that one because I'll probably be drinking it whilst we do the next one to cool me down a little bit. And then the next one we'll be doing is a smoked brandy cocktail, which is pretty much going to be kind of like an old fashioned, but with a little bit of extra infusedness going on. So hopefully it'll be nice and fun here. And if you guys have all the ingredients at home, feel free to make some with us. If not, reference this later and make yourself some fun cocktails. So I think we'll wait just 1 or 2 minutes here to make sure everybody is in if they were planning on attending here. Um, we also have I believe we have if you want to ask questions, if there's a way for you to type it in there, Josh, our behind the scenes guy, can send those over to me and we can discuss some questions here. We'll probably we'll start, as I said, we'll start with the iced tea cocktail. Let's go over some ingredients real fast if you want to rummage through your pantries. We'll be using primarily tequila. That was requested by our friend Kira. She wanted to do me to do a tequila cocktail. So we'll do primarily tequila, but we're also going to be using some rum. If you can, try and keep the same color of alcohol. So if you're using a silver tequila, try and keep a white rum. Or if you're using a gold tequila, then a spiced or a gold rum as well. You don't particularly have to, like, you're not going to be out of luck if you have one or the other, but it definitely is better to try and maintain the colors. We'll be using some triple sec, some lemon juice, which we're going to be squeezing here. The fresher the better for any sort of juice, lime juice, lemon juice. And then we have a little bit of iced tea. You don't need too much. Some ice, obviously, and some pineapple juice. So those are what we're using. We're also actually going to be using an egg white, which you can do if you want. It freaks some people out. I'll talk about it later once we actually add it. It's completely safe. It's very common in cocktails, especially with citrus. And yeah, so it should be a nice fun cocktail today. I'm also going to be consistently dabbing my forehead and such because it's quite warm out today. I don't know what the actual temperature is, but it definitely feels like it's up in the 80s at least. So, cool. Well, let's get started here. We are going to, unlike the whipped coffee cocktail, we're going to be using a shaker for this one. Hold on, hopefully this didn't just cut. There we go. Yeah, cool. We'll be using a shaker for this one. Unlike the whipped coffee, we kind of made everything into the stir glass and then combined it with the whipped coffee. This one will be primarily shaking, and we will be topping it a little bit with some iced tea, but primarily the cocktail will be in our shaker here. So to start, we are going to end up in a pint glass. So we're going to take some ice, just a little bit, and just put some into your final glass. You can use a fun fancy glass if you want, but iced tea is generally served in just like a pint glass sort of if you go to a restaurant. So that's what we'll be doing. Got a little stir stick here. Give it just a little stir, break it up a little bit, and then we're gonna leave that to the side, just like we did in the whipped coffee. It will get nice and cold for us while we make the rest of our drink. If you have any questions during this, or if you want to comment or say anything, feel free to send them over, and Josh can send them over to me. Next, we are going to start with our main liquor here. So we're going to start with some tequila. And I am using today. I'm using a Milagro tequila. It's a good. I don't want to say budget, but it's definitely it has good quality, but it's not going to break the bank or anything. Especially for these kind of tiki drink type situations, you don't want to use anything that's going to be super crazy expensive because there's a lot of juices involved and whatnot. I'm trying to like figure out the the exposure difference here. That it's very. I'm kind of in the shade, and I don't want to be all the way back here because I'll burn up. So sorry if the main camera here is a little dark. So take your tequila here, and we're going to add an ounce and a half. Start with that. It doesn't. If you have a shaker, if you have a two-part Boston strainer or a shaker like this, go ahead and use that because that's I think the better method. But if not, whatever sort of shaker you have, even if you don't have a shaker, if you have a what am I thinking? A mason jar, those are fine. They do the job. Really, anything you can shake your drink up in. The main thing you want to look out for when selecting a shaker is, and like the problem with some of the cheaper shakers out there is when it gets cold, will it stick? So these, when you put everything together, you create a vacuum between the two cups, so it doesn't come apart. But the problem with some of the ones that you get, excuse me, I guess I should have. We're in quarantine. It's just me though. When you're using the cheaper shakers, that the three piece with the cap and the lid, and those when they get cold, they can get really sticky, and you have to like force the lid off. And I've spilt one or two drinks in my time using those type of shakers. So we're not gonna use those. I'm using my Boston shaker today. Another thing you want to look out for as well is if it can break. Like if you're using an all glass shaker and you shake it really hard, the glass is liable to break. That's something just to obviously watch out for there. So we have our ounce and a half tequila in there, and we won't be using too much iced tea in this. A lot of times iced tea drinks, like when Long Island iced teas and stuff like that, they don't actually really have a lot of actual iced tea, which is fine and probably a good thing because iced tea is, when it comes to cocktail making, does kind of act like a water base because even if you have a strong iced tea, it does kind of just dilute things. So we'll just be using a little bit today. So like Long Island iced tea doesn't have any iced tea in it. It's just a nice sippable drink. So we have our ounce and a half of tequila. We're gonna have our rum here, and you're gonna add an ounce of rum, so slightly less than your tequila. And I'm using these cocktail drinks here. Does the type of tequila and rum matter? No, it doesn't particularly matter in terms of style. You can use either style if you want to use a gold or a white or a silver or anything. I would recommend, like I said earlier, trying to maintain the color. So if you're using a gold tequila, try and use a gold rum or a spiced rum, and vice versa. If you're using a silver tequila, like we are today, we have a silver tequila. We're using a white rum. It doesn't really matter. You're not going to be detrimented if you mix them up, especially if you're using like a gold rum and silver tequila. That's not even that bad. You might start tasting some weird stuff if you use like a dark black spiced rum and then like a silver tequila. That might be a bit weird, but I mean, it's up to you. I actually, under normal circumstances, like using dark rum and dark tequila in my cocktails because normally we're not using this, but we're not going to add any extra sugar in this. The pineapple juice is plenty sweet. But if you're making normal rum or tequila cocktails, I like to add a little bit less like artificial sugar, like simple syrup, and I like to kind of rely on the extra sweetness that a gold or a darker liquor provides. So but overall, yes, no, it doesn't particularly matter. We'll add our ounce of rum here. Bit of a heavy pour, but that's all right. We're having fun. Put that up nice and away there. Cool. We can even put this to the side. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to add our at this point it doesn't really matter what you add. Let's add the triple sec. We'll start with all the alcohol bases, and then we'll start adding our other bits. The triple sec, normally in cocktails you don't add too much. We are actually going to add a full ounce of this. These kind of fun tiki style drinks, you want to get kind of fun with the fruit here, especially with something like pineapple juice, where that is a very strong profile flavor wise. We do want to kind of combat it a little bit. Thus the lemon and thus the triple sec. For those of you who don't know, triple sec is a an orange liqueur. This one I'm using a Tequila. It's a pretty common brand. The brand bartenders trust. It's essentially it's an orange liqueur. It adds a little bit of an orange spice to it. So I have something in my throat. But yeah, so we're gonna add a full ounce of that. That's in there, and then after our alcohol bases those are all done, we are going to. It's warm out here, guys. We're starting to get sweaty. We're gonna add our egg. So what's fun about eggs is what's fun about eggs in cocktails. What's fun about eggs in cocktails is when people see you do it, they always get kind of whacked out of it. They're always like, "Oh my god, a raw egg!" Da da da. They're absolutely safe. Essentially, what happens is by adding the egg white, not the yolk. Keep that in mind, not the yolk. The egg white, it'll add a really fun and nice froth to your drink, and that's really nice for stuff with pineapple, stuff with orange. It just adds a nice little foam on top and kind of thickens it up a bit. And any of the, potential hazards that come from using a raw egg are negated by not only the alcohol kills any of the bacteria, but also the citrus that we'll be adding kind of in a way cooks the egg. So we'll be using that. So when we do that, what we're going to do is we're actually going to take a knife here, and I got a little bowl, and we're going to crack the egg. We're going to get kind of a nice even crack, and then be kind of careful. Open it up, and just go back and forth real quick with this, and that'll separate the yolk. So we got our egg white in this little bowl here, and we'll just dump that in there real quick. If you're still a little freaked out, then you don't have to use the egg. It's not a major part of the cocktail, but it is pretty fun. I'm gonna go wash my hands real quick. I'll be right back. You definitely don't want to be making food or drinks with egg hands.
So you see what I've been telling you. It's nothing like it seems. It's what I've been telling you. Oh, you'd learn what I mean if you came. But the risk, are you willing to take?
Okay, so now that I'm back, and you have your egg in your cocktail, what you want to do real quick is before you add anything else, go ahead and mix those two together. What you're going to do is we're going to put these together. We're just going to give it a quick 1 or 2 shakes to kind of froth up the egg white, and then we'll add our other stuff as well. So what you want to do if you're using this Boston strainer, or Boston shaker I should say, you want to put it in the small into the top at an angle. Here, I'll show you here on the smaller cam here. So you put this in, you want to go straight up and down, you want to go at an angle so that you create a straight line on this side, and then after you do that, give it a nice whack, and you'll have a good seal. You can see if I hold it, it won't come apart. It's just a quick couple shakes, froth it up. To release that seal, if you're holding it like such, a good whack on the side with your palm, it'll loosen right up. You also won't have any problem right now because it's not cold. You might have to give it an extra 1 or 2 whacks once everything's really cold and frothy in there, but not at the moment. We're not at that part yet. You can see in there, sort of, it's getting a little frothy, just enough to have the egg white kind of mix up a bit. Next, we're going to add our lemon. So what we're going to do is take our lemon here, and again, as I said, the fresher the better. So I'm taking a lemon, cut it, and we're going to squeeze a full ounce, if not a little more, lemon juice into a drink here. So you can squeeze your lemon however you want, but obviously I like to work harder, or work smarter, not harder, and I have a little squeezer. So we'll just squeeze this into our cocktail jigger. We got just about as much as we need there. We got right around an ounce out of that 1/2. Feel free to use more if you'd like, if you really like the lemon taste. I just think that's about enough to get what we're going for here. Right about an ounce. Let's see here. So we've got our liquors, lemon, triple sec. Great. So we pretty much comprised most of our drink here. What we're going to do now is we're going to add our orange juice, which is going to be our main kind of filler and flavor for this. And we'll add a good 3.5 ounces. So there's 1.5 ounces. There's 3 ounces. And then if I flip this over on my specific jigger here, I have a 1/2 ounce and a 0.75 ounce. This is a very tall, a very long drink, so we'll be pretty liberal with our juice there. And we're ready. We're ready to shake this up. The iced tea will come a bit later. We're going to top it off with the iced tea, but for now we're ready to shake this up. So go ahead and grab a good measure of ice, and go ahead and fill your shaker up a good amount. If you want to look in there, we've got probably about halfway full of stuff. And now we're going to actually do our proper shaking. Just like before. All right, and now you can see we're nice and frosty. You can see the connotation kind of start to build there on our shaker. If you are using something like this, you do want to make sure that the open end is facing behind you, just in case there is a leak. You don't want to, if you're at a bar and you're shaking it this way, you don't want to spray the customer, with whatever liquor you have inside there. Give it a good whack, and you'll hear it. I don't know if you can hear it, but you'll hear kind of like a vacuum break, and just work it off. Look at that. That's the side. And once you do this, you'll see that it gets really frothy and really foamy inside. Not only because pineapple juice is naturally kind of foamy, but the egg white has really helped us with that. So now we can take our glass that we've been chilling, and we'll dump our chill ice out. And you're going to add some more ice to this. Some fresh ice. You don't want to have the ice that you've been, letting melt sitting there. And with our drink now, we're going to pour it right in. You can see it's nice and frothed. Cool. And you can see there we're pretty much full to the top, and that's where our iced tea is going to come in. I personally make this iced tea. It doesn't matter if it's homemade or not. Mine is just because me and my family drink so much iced tea. You can use slightly flavored iced tea if you want. This one actually is a little bit of a black currant in there, but I've done it with black iced tea too, and it is absolutely fine. We don't want too much. Just a little swirl there, but we do want to top our glass off. So we're going to take 1.5 ounces, and this is depending on how much you put of other stuff and how much ice you put in. This will vary the iced tea a little bit in terms of how much. I think we'll probably do, there we go, 2.5 ounces there. And now you can see in this here, we've got pretty much summed it all up. What we're going to do though is take, if you have any, this is an optional step. If you have any grenadine, or I'm using sweet vermouth, if you just want to take a little bit of this, sweet vermouth is like a fortified wine. You use non-sweet vermouth, just normal vermouth for martinis. but I like to just top some of my cocktail drinks with it. And you can kind of see there, you'll see it kind of start to drip down inside the glass here. It's mostly for presentation, but it also does add a nice little flavor. And you can, if you want, you can add that before and you can mix it in. I think it is really good just floated on top. But other than that, we have our drink all nice and made. But we obviously are not done because we have to do at least a little bit of a garnish, as this is a cocktail and we are not amateurs. Feel free to garnish with whatever you feel like. If you have any berries or any, if you want to put a mango slice in there. I, however, am just going to use a little umbrella that there we go. Got a little fun umbrella, we'll stick right in there, and a paper straw. And there you go. That is what I like to call my pineapple iced tea cocktail. I don't really have any specific names for any of these things, but pineapple iced tea cocktail. It's nice. It's refreshing. It's nice and foamy, and it's awesome on a good hot day like this. And obviously, you got to give it a taste. It's just awesome. If this is a little, well, I don't think it is, but I'm kind of a bad judge on this. If you can taste a little bit too booziness, some people really don't like it. I think this is fantastic because you can really taste the flavor of the tequila and the rum without tasting the harshness that the alcohol kind of stings your throat. That's all negated, but the good flavor is there, and this is just a great drink to sit out on the porch and drink on a hot summer's day. You can also, if you want, it's very, very easy to just make a big pitcher of it. You just multiply the recipes. I got a question. If you don't have a shaker, not a huge deal. You can stir everything. I would recommend not using the egg if you don't have a shaker. You could also, I was just about to talk about this, a variation is you could blend this. You could throw the ice in there and you could blend it and it would become more like a smoothie than a kind of an iced tea drink, but it would also be equally as fantastic. What I would do if you don't have a shaker and you don't want to do a blending is I would mix the egg, stir everything in a glass of some sort, or a mixing glass, kind of like what we did on the coffee cocktail, and what we're about to do as well on our old fashioned. Stir it all up, and then put that into a glass, and then top it with your pineapple juice and your iced tea as well, to taste as well. If you want more pineapple, if you want more iced tea, totally up to you. But you can kind of customize it. That's what's fun about tiki drinks and these kind of fun long drinks is you really can customize them to what you like. If you want some more pineapple in it, there's some more pineapple in it. If you want to add another juice, or if you want to add some more stuff, maybe it'll take some tweaking on the rest of the recipe, but for the most part, you can kind of do what you want with them based off of guidelines. Every time I go into a tiki bar, after I get talking to the bartenders and whatever, I'll end up asking them, oh well, hey, how do you like making this? Everyone kind of likes taking a drink that's pre-established and doing it their own way. I was actually waiting to get into one bar, and I went to this other bar while I was waiting up in Montreal, and it was a rum bar completely. And I was talking to the guy, I was looking at the menu, I was like, hey, so he's talking a little bit, hey, well, what do you like to make? And he's like, oh, I really like making this and that. And I cannot remember what it was. What was it? It was a it had like almond in it, and I've had them before, and they weren't my number one priority. I said, yeah, okay, well, those are good. He said, well, I'm going to a cocktail competition, and I do it slightly differently. Are you interested in trying my personal one? I said, oh my God, yes, absolutely. And it was fantastic. So I definitely recommend, if you're in a cocktail bar, especially one that specializes in kind of fun, fancy drinks like tiki drinks or a rum bar or anything, talk to the bartenders, kind of get to know them a little bit if you can, and see what they recommend. See if they have anything that they like to play with. If they have a little twist that they do for their own things. So a lot of times you'll end up with a really fun cocktail that is awesome. And obviously, these are really popular at parties and whatever, especially in the summer. If you live in California when it's always 100 degrees, I can kind of see the sun's coming out a little bit now more. But I'm gonna keep this to the side because I'm gonna be sipping on this for a while, and I'm gonna take just a second here. Feel free to shoot some questions in if you want. I'm just gonna change over from this cocktail setup I have to our slightly simpler but equally as fun brandy cocktail. So be back in just a second. Be right back. I just had to go get another ingredient. Be back.
So you see what I've been telling you. It's nothing like it seems. It's what I've been telling you. Oh, you'd learn
All right.
what I mean if you came. But the risk, are you willing to take?
All right. We're ready to keep going here. Okay. So our next drink we're going to do today is less of a fancy tiki drink. I just realized this is right in frame. Let's put this over here. We're going to do a stiffer drink. I was talking to our behind-the-scenes guy, Josh, and he thought it'd be a good idea to do one fun, fancy drink, like our tiki that we just did, and we're also going to do one stiff drink that's much simpler in the sense of ingredients, but we are going to have a little bit of fun with it and do it kind of in a not very commonly done way. We're going to do a smoked brandy old fashioned with some maple in it as well. Everyone knows how to do old fashions. You can look up one of 800,000 videos of how to do them. They're pretty much the oldest, one of the oldest, if not the oldest, cocktail around. Essentially, it's just a liquor, which at the time was very common to be whiskey, namely rye whiskey, some sugar, and some bitters. It got a little bit added to in the 50s during like cocktail hour and whatnot post-war, and you start seeing the cherry get muddled into it and the orange and all that jazz. We're not going to do anything like that. We are going to be doing an old-fashioned based, but we are going to kind of spice it up a bit. I started drinking brandy old fashions recently, and they're very interesting. They're nice and fun. They're a little different than what you're normally used to. I love my whiskey old fashions, but a brandy is also a good option as well. And what I actually on that same trip in Montreal, after I went to the rum bar for the bar I was waiting for, I went down there. It was this nice cocktail bar, and I was talking to the bartender again. I said, "Hey, can you make me a really like Canadian old fashioned?" Because I saw they had maple syrup on the menu, he said, yeah, that sounds really good. So he went and he dished it up. And the idea was that we replaced the sugar, which an old fashioned is just whiskey, sugar, and bitters. We replaced the sugar with maple syrup, and then he used a really strong rye, a Canadian rye, and and it was absolutely fantastic. So I got really turned on to the idea of using non-sugar based sugars. That doesn't really make sense, but like not using actual sugar, not using a lump of sugar, or not using simple syrup, but using something that is naturally sweet, like honey or what I love is maple syrup. So that's what we'll be doing today, which I've got in my little porridge jar here. Um, so for our ingredients list for this, we're going to be using a brandy. Up to you. I'm using this EJ, nothing special, Grand Bleu, very special, old pale American brandy. You can use, I mean, cognac is a form of brandy, but really whatever you want to use. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend. Well, actually, for this, you can use a little bit better of a brandy if you'd like. You can use like a pretty high quality liquor. It will come through more in this cocktail than it would in our previous. I still wouldn't recommend using, like an 18-year-old Scotch or anything for really any sort of mixed drinks. But you could use a higher shelf. But I'm just going to be using this E&J today. We are going to be using that triple sec again, just a little bit of this. Not too much, not like before, just as to kind of complement the profile of the brandy. You'll need some cinnamon sticks, or this actually won't be in the cocktail. We're actually going to be burning this. So really, whatever you want to use. I think cinnamon sticks are great, but you can use some thyme if you'd like, something that is just nice and will get you some smoke. And then we're going to be using some bitters as well, which is just essentially fortified plants in a sense. And you use these in dashes. Angostura makes really popular ones. They're probably the most popular. You can get slightly flavored bitters. You can get orange bitters. You can get cherry bitters. We just have our normal aromatic cocktail bitters here from Puchards. Pretty simple, nothing too crazy. And then this one we will be stirring as well. We have a julep strainer here, and we'll be stirring everything here because everything we're going to be putting in is alcohol-based or sugar-based, and there's no citrus or anything, so we don't need to shake it. And that is about it. So what we're going to do to start is we're not going to touch our shaker or actually any of the actual cocktail stuff. What we're going to do, this is where the kind of fun bit comes, is we're gonna accomplish the smoke bit first. The idea is that we're going to burn something, which is in our case cinnamon sticks. We're going to burn a cinnamon stick. We're going to trap the smoke into this decanter here. We're going to let the smoke sit. We're going to make our cocktail, and then we're going to combine the two into this decanter. And what that's going to do is it's going to infuse the smoke into our drink and give it a really nice, fun, smoky flavor that isn't necessarily present in the liquor to begin with. This liquor is a very sweet, kind of, not sugary, but it definitely has a lot of fruit notes to it. Brandy is kind of as whiskey is more or less distilled beer. Brandy is more or less fortified and distilled wine. So it does have a very fruit profile to it and a lot of sweetness. So we're gonna complement that with our triple sec, and the smoke gives it a really kind of fun, different aspect that you don't normally see. So to start, we're going to take our cinnamon stick here, and obviously you're going to need some sort of fire method. I think a torch like this is the best way to do. How does the smoke infuse into the drink? What we're going to do, so how does the smoke infuse? What we're going to do is the smoke is going to be trapped into this decanter, and then once we make the drink, we're going to pour the drink into here, seal it off again, and kind of let it sit and swoosh it around a bit. And whilst we do that portion, the smoke will kind of combine itself into the drink. It's kind of a fun little chemistry way of doing things. You can also, if you don't have something like this, in the step we're about to do, you can take a glass, preferably not the one that you are going to drink out of. Well, I guess if you're going to do this method, you probably would want to use the glass that you're going to end up with. Take it and use that instead. It won't be as infused, but it will kind of do the job as well. But what we're going to do is I'll just walk you through it before we do it. We're going to light this on fire. We're going to flame, and we're going to immediately trap it into the decanter like such. Don't pull my tablecloth off here. Like such. And then what we're going to do is we're going to let the smoke kind of fill this up. And you can tell it'll become very opaque and very kind of frosted. And once that's done, our stopper, seal it pretty immediately, trapping the smoke inside. Make sure it's a good tight seal. We're going to leave that go. We'll make our drink at the very end, and we will uncap this again, reel it, and make up. So let's start with the smoke. We'll start having some fun here. If you're using a separate container, you do want to make sure it has flat of a top here, because when you tip it over, you want to make sure that it sits nice and still, and you don't want to have any gaps letting the smoke out. You also want to see if it's make sure it's sealable quickly. If you have a cork or I have a cap here, you don't want to be dealing with screwing something on or whatever, letting the smoke come out, because it will come out pretty quick if you leave it open. So if it can sit upside down nice and sturdy, and if it can be sealed correctly and quickly, then you'll be good to go. I've done this with small like vials before too. What was it? It was I think it was like a organic honey jar or something, and I screwed it on, and it worked fine. I think the big glass is slightly better. You don't want anything too big. You don't want like a gallon size, but a good size, because that way when you swoosh it around your drink inside later, it gives it a good amount of room to absorb all the flavor. So we'll get started. We'll take our cinnamon stick here, and we'll get it nice and lit. You'll hear it crack if you're using cinnamon. Okay, it's on fire here. So let's give it a little, give another little bit. And go ahead and trap that right inside. And you can see, I don't want to move the camera or anything, but you can see that the glass here might be hard to tell in the sunlight, but the smoke definitely will start to fill this glass up, and it will start to opaque itself. It will look nice and frosted. And give that a second there. Kind of twist it around if you want, but don't. But the main thing here is you want to keep that seal on the bottom. You don't want to have the smoke escape. You want to trap as much as you can inside of that glass. So give that a second. Glass is also a lot better than plastic, obviously, because you are putting something that's on fire or was recently on fire in there, and you don't want anything to melt. So yeah, it's quite fun. It's nice having another drink while you wait. All right, now it seems like we've got a good amount there. So this is kind of a quick system. We're going to take this off and seal it real quick. And there we go. And if you can see here, we've got a good seal there. We've trapped a lot of the smoke inside this glass. You can keep this if you want. We're going to use this as our garnish later. This little cinnamon stick. You can use a fresh one if you want, but I think it's kind of fun having the pre-burnt one there. Stick that off to the side. And now we're going to make our actual drink. So, as I said before, this is going to be a stir glass one versus a shaker. And again, the reason is because all of our contents that we are putting in there are either alcohol-based or sugar-based. If you were putting anything that wasn't those two, you'd want to shake it. Like if you were putting, like what we did before when we put our lemon juice in, or if you're putting lime juice, you'd want to shake that, or obviously if there was an egg again, you'd want to do that as well. Here, I'll try and step into the sun so you guys can see my face. So with this one, we're just going to keep it nice and stirrable. But to start, like always, we're going to take our final glass here, the one that we're going to be drinking out of. Take a little bit of ice, put some ice in there, give it a little stir, and put this glass aside. Or if you're doing this inside, you can put this in the freezer too. That's obviously fine. I'm just outside and it's hot, so that's what we're going to do. Okay, back to our stir glass here. We'll start with our main. Actually, no, we are not going to start with that. We're going to start with our syrup, our maple syrup here. There's no real measurement to this. If I had to put it into measurement, I'd probably say maybe a quarter ounce max. Depends on how maple you want this and how sweet you want it. Um, I personally just like to, in my stir glass here, get about maybe a quarter size little dollop in there. Um, a quarter to a half ounce is quite a bit of maple syrup, but a quarter ounce probably would be a good amount, a good estimate there. As you can see, I just have a little bit at the bottom. And what we're going to do then is we're going to take. Let's not have any. I'm gonna go put. What you want to do is you want to put your maple syrup in here, and then you just want to put a very small splash of water. Not a whole lot. Like I'm not talking even turn the sink on and off. Like turn the sink to like a minimal amount, or if you have a bottle, obviously, just give it a quick dash. What that's going to do is it's going to help kind of water down that syrup and make it easier to mix up later. I obviously don't have a sink out here or anything, so I'm going to go just put a really quick dash in there, and then we'll keep going. So stay tuned. Okay, and we're back. I actually just grabbed a little bit of water here. This is still water in a San Pellegrino. It's not actually sparkling. So you just want to add just a little bit in there. And then take your stir stick or bar spoon and just kind of stir it up a little bit. And you'll see it start to become nice and watery. Keep going. You want to make sure that the maple syrup ends up like really mixed in with the water. You don't want to see the kind of stickiness on the bottom. You want to really have it all mixed up there. Okay, so now we have that. We're going to take our bitters real quick. And these, as I said before, come in dashes. So instead of measuring this out into a glass or anything, we're just going to put a few dashes in there. We're going to put 3 dashes of bitters in here. 3 dashes. And if you want to use, if you have / want to use some flavored bitters, I would recommend orange. That would work really well. Just give that a little. Cool. All right, we are now ready for our actual alcohol bases. So we're going to start with our brandy, which, because this is the main spirit for this, we're going to put a good pour in there. We're going to put 1.5. We're going to put, we're going to put 2.25 in there. So 1.5 and 0.75. And that is more or less our drink. That would be everything that you would put into an old-fashioned, or if you were making a just a normal maple old-fashioned, which is fantastic and I love. That would be all you're going to do. However, because we're using brandy and we're doing the smoke, I like to add a little bit more fruitiness. So we're actually going to add a ½ ounce of our triple sec, just to kind of complement the fruitiness of the brandy and also to combat the smoke a little bit. You don't want to have anything over smoky, especially with brandy, but just enough to, you know, help it out and give it a good flavor. Cool. So that's everything into our mixing glass. Our next and final step: take some ice and get a good heartly measure in there. Fill it up a good amount. This is our principal chilling aspect, and you'll obviously want to have a nice cold drink. And once your ice is in there, give it a nice stir. And this should go on for anywhere between 10 to 30 seconds. I should mention the maple syrup that you use. The higher the quality of maple syrup, the better. If you can get a good Vermont maple syrup, or if you can get obviously Canadian maple syrup would be great. Something that hopefully isn't Aunt Jemima, but obviously use what you have. But you will get a better tasting and better for you drink using better quality ingredients, and that does come all the way down to maple syrup as well. Okay, so we have everything all stirred there. And what we would normally do at this point is we would put it into our rocks glass. That would be just normal old-fashioned. But because we're doing the smoke, we're going to take our smoke decanter here. The idea is we're going to uncork this, pour the drink in as quickly as we can, but also you don't want to spill your drink everywhere, and then reseal it, and that'll help or start us on the process of infusing the drink. So we'll uncork this. You'll see some smoke escape. That's all right. We got a good amount of smoke in there. And boom. And we still have some smoke in there, as you can see. So now, keeping this corked, you're going to just kind of toss it around in there. Get it nice and coated. Get the smoke nice and together with your drink. And the longer that you do this, the smokier your drink will become. So if you aren't a huge smoke fan, first of all, maybe don't do the smoke bit if you don't like smoke. But if you like a little bit of smoke, then do this for a less amount of time. I personally like a lot of smoke. I think it's really interesting in contrast with the normal brandy flavor. So we're going to keep doing this for a good long time there. It doesn't have to be anything super aggressive or anything. It doesn't have to be as aggressive as a shaker from before, but just enough to introduce the smoke into the drink. That's about good. Okay, so since we've already strained it, we don't have to worry about a strainer now. What we do have to worry about is taking our rocks glass, dumping the ice out. It's nice and chilled now. And we're going to put some fresh ice in there. As big a chunks as possible if you're using store-bought or home ice. If you have a cocktail ice maker, like one that makes the big squares or circles, this would be the time to do it and use that. And whenever you're ready, you're going to uncork this and you're going to pour it right into your glass. If you're lucky, you'll get some smoke to go on top as well, and it's kind of fun. This would be how you would present the drink if you were giving it to a customer or anything. You'd give it to them in the decanter and let them pour themselves, or you'd pour it in front of them. A good cocktail not only about flavor, but it also really has to do with your presentation and the aromatic smell as well. So you want to give them something, your customer, that not only is pleasing to the scent, but also to the taste, and obviously has to look nice as well. So when you're ready, go ahead and uncork that, and pour that over your fresh ice. Just put a little bit there. But there you go. That's your drink all together now. And as a garnish, you can go ahead and lay that cinnamon stick right on top. And there is your final drink. You can also take the drink, cinnamon stick, and put it right into the drink as well. It is kind of a fun little infusement there. This is my favorite way to do it versus putting it on top. I think having the burnt end up, obviously, the cinnamon stick in there just kind of helps add a little bit to the drink as you're sipping it. So that is your smoked brandy old fashioned. And as you drink it, you'll taste the smoke almost immediately. You can almost smell it on it as well. It is a very strong way to make a drink in terms of adding that smoke flavor. But what's nice is that the first taste that you get is that kind of smokiness, but then as the drink is in your mouth and as you swallow it, you start to get the fruit notes and the maple notes as well. And if you like old fashions, this is really a fun way to do it. It took me a little bit to get this right. I experimented with some different types of smoke. Cinnamon is what I ended up with, just to kind of keep it in the same flavor range. But I did try, my first attempt was I took a little bowl of, what was it? It was like oregano or something. It was thyme. I put some thyme leaves in there, and I put some matches, some wood matches. My idea was that I would get the smoke from the wood, and then kind of a little bit of the flavor of the thyme, and that would be what I put into the drink. But that didn't work out too well. And that was also before I started doing this method. That was just into the glass. I had just put a glass on top, upside down, and tried to trap smoke like that, but it didn't retain very well, and the drink didn't infuse as much. But this is definitely a better way of doing it. It's very interesting. It's very different than most things that you'll see as far as old fashions go. If you're at a friend's house or whatever, and you can do this, it does elevate the level of cocktail a bit. The fact that you can present it in a fun way, and that it's a fun science project is kind of what it comes down to. And yeah, it's just a different way of making something that is timelessly classic and that everyone enjoys, or if you like cocktails, everyone enjoys, and just kind of adding your own flair to it. And you can, I've seen people do smoked cocktails with different types of wood as well as versus a cinnamon stick. They've taken, like a little stick of wood, and they've lit that on fire. You can do this with, it'd be really good with whiskey, because whiskey is a really awesome liquor to go with a smoky flavor. That's why some scotches are so smoky. Whiskey just really, absorbs it really well, and the flavor profiles really work nicely. But I think brandy is a fun way to do it because of the fruit profile that brandy has, and the smoke is just kind of a fun contrast in there, kind of a savory and sweet type situation. But there you go. There's your smoked old fashioned, a little bit of brandy in there, and obviously, double fist in here. Your fun little tiki drink iced tea. That's all we're making today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot them in there, and I'll do my best to answer them real quick. But other than that, you got your stiff drink, and you got your more fruity drink. Do what you want. Maybe have a fun drink outside in the sun, and then go inside and have one of these after dinner. Does the quality of maple syrup matter? Yes, it does. It doesn't. It doesn't. I would recommend using a higher quality syrup if you can. It doesn't have to be, an $80 bottle of vintage Canadian whatever, but preferably something that isn't like an Aunt Jemima will help. Um, Obviously, if Aunt Jemima's the only thing you got, then that's what you should use. But in most situations, and what I've kind of discovered more recently, is really the quality does matter in any sort of drink making. Um, Not only will, if you have a little bit too much, it'll help you the next morning, but it does affect the flavor quite a bit, and you will notice a difference in the quality of your drink as well. But use what you have. That's the point of these videos. Is we're all kind of stuck inside, and stores might not have everything at all times. So use what you got, and experiment, have fun. This is a very kind of experimental drink. This smoked old fashioned. So have fun with it, and try different things. I mean, as far as the actual making, thank you guys for tuning in. That's where we're at. So, thank you guys.
You'd learn what I mean if you came